Chapter 14. Letting Jesus be himself with you. One day, a man decided to board himself up inside his house. He sealed off the doors, the windows, even the chimney. He left only one opening, the kitchen window, through which anyone who wished to speak to him was forced to speak. Fortunately, there were people that still wished to speak to him, so they called on the man at his kitchen window. Over the years, this fellow came to the conclusion that the world was such a place in which people only speak to one another through kitchen windows. He wrote a book in which he argued that human discourse cannot and does not take place in any other way than through kitchen windows. The Kitchen Window School was founded shortly upon his death. Our experience of Jesus is limited most often by the limits we put on him. A painful truth, but also a hopeful one. Perhaps we can take down some of the barriers. Most of the limits we put on Jesus, we do unconsciously. Now, some of it we do intentionally, and of course, a trainload is dumped on us by our context. In which case, the parable could begin, one day a man was boarded up inside his house by his past, or by the leaders of his religious community. But I'm not looking to fix blame. I'm trying to help us find Jesus. As I said at the beginning of the book, though Jesus has been vandalized both by religion and the world, he's still alive and very much himself, but it takes a little bit of uncovering to know him as he truly is. Step one to a deeper experience of Jesus is knowing what to look for. That's why we've been looking at his personality, setting him free from the religious. If you can hang on to this, it will open up an entire world for you. This is a Jesus you can actually love because this is who he is. All right, step two involves removing some of the debris that's been piled in the way so that we can begin to experience him, share our life with him. For example, if for whatever reason you believe that Jesus doesn't speak to me, it's going to be hard to hear him speaking to you, right? Or if you believe for the same reason that Jesus doesn't really love me, it will be awfully hard to experience the love of Jesus. Are you following me? It's a stunning realization. You will find Jesus pretty much as you expect to. Not because he is exactly as you expect him to be, but because he would be known by you. And you have insisted that he only act within the boundaries you've set. You've insisted that he call at the kitchen window. Jesus will accept those terms of engagement for a while, like a loving parent will do with their teenager, because he wants relationship with you. He'll suffer these limits for years. It explains why one denomination experiences Christ in one way and another denomination experiences him differently, and why both are missing massive portions of his personality. They created rules outside of which they forbid him to act. Peter tried this at the Last Supper when he forbid Jesus to wash his feet. Friends, you don't want to be telling Jesus what he can and can't do, okay? So the best place to begin, and one of the most powerful things you could ever pray, is this: I renounce every limit I have ever placed on Jesus. I renounce every limit I have ever placed on him in my life. What do you think of Jesus? Here is a very revealing way to get at the same issue from another angle. What do you think Jesus thinks of you? You discover what you actually believe about Jesus when you admit what it is you believe he thinks of you. See, a friend of mine holds something than a lower view of a low view of himself. You might say he keeps his self-image in a dark, smelly corner of the basement. He never likes to pass a mirror. He hates it when people pay him compliments, and he dismisses them immediately as proof that you don't really know him. His childhood story is heartbreaking, and the self-contempt that got in through that trauma sunk its talons deep. It has damaged his relationship with God in many ways. Repentance becomes beating himself up. Taking up his cross becomes self-hatred. shame and self-loathing are what he thinks it means to be humble. The offers of intimacy with Jesus seem too good to be true. God would never speak to me, he says. And so over the years, his view of God has become severe. A gifted teacher, he began to spread his brokenness by convincing others that God was angry, ready to judge, usually impatient with our attempts to love him. Tormented himself, he spread the torment of misunderstanding. These people can actually grow very large churches. Listen to how someone prays. It will reveal what they really think about Jesus. Does he sound near, or does the prayer make him seem far away, up in the sky somewhere? Does it sound as though Jesus might be someone we're bothering with our requests, someone with more important things to do? Does he have a sense of humor? Or is he always serious? Is it formal and religious, or good morning, Papa? Do they even sound like they know him? Really, listen to their prayers. Listen to your own. We interpret Jesus through our brokenness, a painful but also a hopeful truth. Maybe we can open up the doors and windows that we didn't know we closed. For as long as I can remember, I've been haunted personally by the feeling that it's never good enough. Okay, it doesn't matter what this is. It might be a project, a friendship, painting a house, being a father. It's just never good enough. This began way before I met Jesus. It's one of the core pressures I've lived under all my life. And no matter what I'm doing, it doesn't feel good enough. Now, I became a Christian with this belief already deeply rooted within me. And what happened was it got attached to Jesus as well, so that nothing ever really feels good enough for him. Okay, I'm not doing good enough. I'm not loving him enough. I'm not, you get the picture. This has absolutely nothing to do with who Jesus really is. It's my brokenness shaping my perception of him. This is actually really good news, friends. A fair share of your difficulty with Jesus is simply your brokenness getting in the way. It's good news because it enables us to realize that our perceptions might be wrong, that this isn't what Jesus is like, that this is our brokenness talking. And second, healing our brokenness is exactly what Jesus came to do. How did he handle every broken person that ever came to him? Okay, so think back to the story of Jesus and the boys fishing after the resurrection. Remember now, what did Peter do as Jesus was being tried and tortured? He renounced him. Not once, 3 times. And then the rooster crowed, and Jesus, face swollen, upper lip already burst open and bleeding, he looked him right in the eye. Peter ran outside and wept. Can you imagine how torn apart he was inside? How full of shame and self-loathing? The doubt that Jesus would ever want to see him again. When the 153 large fish pop into the nets and John figures out it's Jesus, Peter hits the water, swimming like a Labrador retriever for shore, and there on the beach, Jesus restores him. I wouldn't be surprised if he did that whole wonderful escapade just for Peter.
Wow.